It's 2020, and that means I have an opportunity to track down more Holy Grail records on my list. This year, I'm going to put my sights on just a couple of them, and in this video, I'm going to tell you my 7 Holy Grail goals for 2020. Obviously, throughout the year, I tend to buy records, whether they're cheap and expensive ones, great deals, or I splurge for some of those records that have been on my want list for years. This year in particular, I'm going to actually be mindful and try to save money for these grails specifically. This was inspired by a post in my Facebook group, which if you aren't a member of, you should certainly join and just search Too Many Records on the Facebook group. That being said, someone said that they were going to stop buying all of these kind of cheapo records and really put their money towards records that'll really be meaningful for them in their collection. Now, I probably can't stop buying cheapo records. I mean, the channel's called Too Many Records. I'm going to have a constant flow coming in and out. But I'm thinking about trying to pool aside some money each month, whether it's from selling records or maybe if I get any sponsorships or money from AdSense, just ways that I can put some money aside and put them directly towards trying to track down these grails for good prices. I'll update you guys throughout the year on how I'm doing, and of course at the end of the year, let's see if I was able to track down all 7, but I'm going to show you what they are and hopefully I can find them for reasonable prices. The first one is Soundgarden's Superunknown, the 320 version. Now, I talked about this in a recent Grail video. This is probably the top of my want list. I don't know if I'll ever find this because I've never actually seen one for sale. Soundgarden Superunknown is obviously one of the best grunge or, I guess art rock, it isn't quite grunge at that point, albums of all time. All the pressings sound pretty good, but after doing some research, there's only one pressing that exists that actually is pure analog. That's the 320. So it was pressed in Germany in 2004, and the only way to know if it's the 320 version is by looking at the dead wax and you'll see 320 etched into it. I know. That means if you find a sealed copy, it might have the right catalog number, you won't know until you open it. No one knows how many were pressed. All I know is it's been on my want list for a long time, and many others I'm sure. I've never seen it pop up. Historically, Discogs says it goes for $60 to $125. I would easily pay double $125 for it, but let's see if it ever pops up. Next up, we have Frank Ocean's Blond. Now, I'm sure many of you guys know this is one of the most desirable records in the hip-hop community, if not the most desirable. Now, some records like Fly God and some of the West Side Gun, Conway stuff do go for more than this, but I think Frank Ocean has a much wider appeal, and therefore this is probably the holy grail for record collectors that are into rap. Now, unlike a lot of people that probably got into the hobby in the past few years where they went to go see what their favorite album, Blond, went for, and then were disappointed to see it was hundreds of dollars, I'm the dum-dum who had the opportunity to buy it and passed. I love Frank Ocean. Nostalgia Ultra and Channel Orange are 2 of my all-time favorites. Blond, when it first came out, I listened to it and I liked it, but I didn't love it. So when it came out on Black Friday, I remember I was sitting on my mom's couch, home for the holidays, looking at the price, and it was like $50 shipped. And I was like, you know what? I like this record. I don't love this record. I'm not going to get it. What a mistake I made. What an absolutely ridiculous mistake. There hasn't been a single repress, and it currently goes for $300 to $500 depending on condition. Regularly. That's not a fluke. Every time you see it sell, it's for that exorbitant price, and that's because Blond has gotten such a cult-like following as one of the best hip-hop albums in recent years, and many people think it's Frank's best. Now, I'm still a Channel Orange fan through and through, but having listened to Blond more and more over the years, every time I listen, I find new things I like about it, and I now love it almost as much as Channel Orange. What I don't love is that it's not in my collection. So, hopefully this year I can find it for a fair price, and I know fair is going to be at least $200, but I just don't think I can bring myself to pay $400. So, let's see if I can see it pop up. If I can go back in time and just roundhouse kick myself in the face for not buying it, I will, but I think buying it for a reasonable price seems more likely. Number 3 is 07 The Garden. So 07 is an amazing down-tempo trip-hop band. I'm a huge fan of their first 2 albums, but the third one, which honestly is the least critically acclaimed of all of them, is the hardest to find. The first 2 have been repressed. The reason that I love this one the most is the presence of one of my all-time favorite singer-songwriters, Jose Gonzalez. He's featured on, I think, 4 of the tracks on the album and adds such a beautiful folky texture to their down-tempo sound. I love this record, and I've only seen it for sale once in person, and it's one of those things, again, as you can see from the trend of this list, kicking myself. I didn't pick it up on the back wall of Amoeba for $75 one day. It was pretty clean. I just said, you know what, I'm not going to get it right now. It'll pop up again. It hasn't. You know what's probably going to happen is I'm going to plunk down all the money for it, and then all of a sudden they're going to repress it, because that's happened to me in the past. If you watch this channel, you know I have some sore spots about that, Mark Kozalik. But hopefully I'll find it as a lucky find online or even in the bins. Number 4 is the Final Fantasy VII picture disc. So Final Fantasy VII is one of my favorite games of all time. It's been a huge part of my life since childhood, and the music is largely the reason as to why I love it so much. Coming out soon in March is the remake, which I'm very excited for. It's going to take a lot of my life away. But that being said, there is a vinyl release coming out with that remake. It's going to be 2 picture discs. One of them is the original score, I believe, and the other one is the remake score, but it only goes up to a certain point in the story because that's where the first part of this remake ends. There was another release a few years ago that Square Enix, I believe on their Japan and EU stores only carried, that had all the MIDI files. So all the songs, as they were in the game, were pressed onto picture discs, and apparently they sound pretty good. I would love to have the orchestral versions, but that's neither here nor there for this video. The MIDI stuff is nostalgic. I would love listening to it, and I'd love to own that as a collectible as a Final Fantasy VII super fan. I did not buy it when it came out. As you can see with this video, there's a trend of me kicking myself retroactively for not getting things when they were available because I thought they were too expensive and then I had no idea where they were going. To import it, it would have been like $80 or $90, and I was like, no way, I can't do that. Do you want to know how much it goes for now? Usually between $200 and $400. So clearly I screwed up. Won't make that mistake again. If I could track it down for the low end of that price, or even lower ideally, that would be a huge score. Number 5, Freelance Wales Weathervanes. I just recently spoke about this in my top 100 records video because it is in my top 100 records of all time, and I don't own it. Fun fact, I used to own it when it was back in print, and unfortunately, in my stupidity, I traded it to someone on Reddit years ago, thinking, oh, this will get a repress. French Kiss is a small label. They'll repress it. They haven't repressed it. I love this album. It is such beautiful indie folk fused with indie pop in such a delicate, fragile, beautiful way, and I just can't believe it hasn't had a repress yet. I mean, the band has kind of faded into obscurity. I don't even know if they're still together. But this album is highly sought after by fans, and it has never been pressed since the original. It goes for $80 to $120, give or take, so this should be one I can track down if I'm lucky, and one of the first ones on this list I'm sure I'll knock off. Number 6 is Audioslave Revelations. So Audioslave, as you guys probably know, is Chris Cornell's vocals with Rage Against the Machine's instrumentation. So it's most of Rage minus Zach plus Chris. Unbelievable. Their first album is by far their best. The second has some great songs, but overall a little weaker. And the third one is surprisingly good and underrated in their catalog before they stopped making music and went their separate ways to continue doing whatever they were doing. Revelations is underrated, as I said, and I believe that this is something that I need to have because my Chris Cornell collection is pretty damn impressive. I have almost everything he's done across all projects. This is one that eludes me. And of course, this is the hardest to find. It's on clear vinyl, which is cool, but it usually goes for between $150 and maybe $250, depending on where you can find it, what condition. And I usually see it for sale overseas, which does not bode well for an American that does not want to pay ridiculous shipping for an already very expensive record. I hope I can knock this one off soon. There may be a repress, who knows? I think their second album is more likely to get a repress sooner than this one, but we will see what 2020 holds. And finally, number 7, Milo, a Toothpaste Suburb. Milo is one of my favorite underground rappers in the scene right now. Something about his poetic, laid-back flow, mixed with these really experimental but pretty beats. I think he's killing the game with everything he's done, whether it's Milo or Scallops Hotel, or I guess his upcoming project, R.A.P. Ferreira. Either way, his early stuff under Milo is extremely difficult to find, and I was lucky enough to be able to track down So the Flies Don't Come, which is probably tied for my favorite album of his. But A Toothpaste Suburb, another record that is terrific from his first big releases as Milo, has been out of print for a very long time, and according to him, he doesn't really have any plans to repress it anytime soon. Prices for all of Milo stuff tends to get out of control, especially for So the Flies Don't Come, but that one pops up every now and then for sale. A Toothpaste Suburb? I don't think I've even ever seen it pop up on Discogs, so this is going to be one that I have to do a creative trade for. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to be tracking it down, and hopefully I can find it to complete my Milo collection. Alright guys, those are my 7 holy grails that I'm hoping to get this year. I'm sure I'll get some other ones along the way, but these are the ones that I'm going to be dedicating some of my funds and time and energy to seeking out. If you happen to see them for a fair price, please let me know. You know how to contact me: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, even on here. I would love to hear about it. Of course, you can also be a jerk and snipe it from me. I can't stop you. The internet is the Wild West. Please leave a comment and let me know what grails you are hoping to knock off your list this year. I'm excited for us. 2020 is going to be a great year for record collectors. I can feel it. Lots of good content on this channel coming too. So make sure you're subscribed and more videos coming right at you. Thanks for watching.